What's up, late night gamers and early morning gremlins? We are back. We have Overwatch League 2023 season. We're here in the East. It's leg day, joined by Necra, and as you can see, PANTHERA are in the studio here at WDG Arena. This is going to be a contenders LAN, and it's going to be an absolutely awesome match between two of our premier teams, Dreamers and PANTHERA.
And I'm so excited about this one as well because we've already seen so much support from the crowd that has come in to be able to watch the first two matches of the day. And I am so excited for Dreamers versus PANTHERA because these two teams have had to go through a lot of roster rebuilds as well because of how many of their players moved up into the Overwatch League. Very exciting for them to be able to have that promotion, and now they do have to prove themselves against each other today.
Yeah, those promotions really do prove the efficacy of what's going on in the East at the moment, with so many of these players getting much larger exposure than they would have had through just the Contenders program by itself, especially with, well, Dreamers being able to make it that far into the knockout brackets. Players like EasyHan and Spectra getting noticed, showing just how much they can do against Overwatch League teams and getting almost instantly picked up. Does mean we've had a lot of rebuilds, but hey, for the players who do get picked up, it's an absolute dream.
Oh yeah, and at this point as well, when you take a look at the likes of O2 Blast having to go through those roster rebuilds because of how many players they have promoted up into the Overwatch League as well, just being one of the premier feeder teams. You just love to be able to see that, especially when these contenders teams also get a chance to prove themselves against the Overwatch League teams because they can participate in the summer stage. We've already been treated to such great matches.
Yeah, it's a great bellwether for a huge amount of the armchair analysts who we get to say, oh, are they our level? Are they not our level? Are they going to be able to hang when it comes to that kind of matchup? We get the empirical evidence. Let's have a look at Dreamers. This is a mostly retooled roster, having lost a huge amount of their personnel to separate places that like to pick them up. Of course, we are here at LAN. Look at those beautiful Dreamers tees. Everything's coming up fashion for this contender squad.
And this contender squad has already proven themselves. They ended up having an incredible lower bracket run in the Eastern knockouts, even being able to beat the likes of Seoul Dynasty and Guangzhou Charge. But they also, in these summer qualifiers, got a dominant win over the Shanghai Dragons yesterday in a 3-1 fashion. This team is looking super strong, especially as Hangzhou Spark have called them out as the top contenders team competing in the summer stages so far, so you have to keep your eyes on them for sure.
Yeah, speaking of dragons, one of my favorite players to cast is Top Dragon. This guy's been competing since 2018 and is only 18 years old himself. So he's been playing since they were 13 at the highest echelons of Korean contenders. This guy's Genji is crazy, but we're probably not going to be seeing too much of it. But honestly, the microsecond level reactions, the nanosecond level reactions of Top Dragon make him such a jumpy, a quirky, an instantaneous player who is always such a joy to behold. And one of my personal favorites to cast, so I cannot wait to get on the Overwatch League team.
Lemonki was speaking Top Dragon's praises as well, as both of you have been able to follow his journey up through the Contenders Overwatch Path to Pro, and I believe his time is coming to make it to the Overwatch League stage. I think you'll get your wish very, very soon.
That's definitely going to be coming on through. On the other side, we do, of course, have PANTHERA. This is a horde born of a Titanic legacy. For those of you who can remember, all back to the hinterlands of Apex, the Kongdu legacy lives on in PANTHERA. Players like Bergering, Rascal, Fisher, they all came up under this umbrella. But of course, PANTHERA's most recent roster has been somewhat disintegrated as well by pickups. Fates in particular being lost might be a big problem for PANTHERA without their big brother tank ready to lead them and make sure they're cohesively executed on plans.
And we saw how much difficulty PANTHERA ended up having in their very first match of the summer qualifiers. They ended up losing 3-0 to the Seoul Dynasty yesterday and had some pretty egregious C9s as well, particularly on Dorado, the final map in that series. They had 5 team members alive, ultimates to spare, and they weren't able to touch the cart. We could have potentially extended that map into extra innings, and we didn't get a chance to do that.
One of the things that really draws my eye is Develop being on support. It feels like this has been a fairly common maneuver after exiting Overwatch League for some players, like Color Hex as well has moved over to flex support on Honeypot. Develop for a while was a hit scan specialist on the Shanghai Dragons during one of their most impressive runs, their championship run in fact. But Develop was riding the bench that entire time. Moon believed in the talent that he had, but is now putting it to separate uses, moving over to a different role. I would not be surprised at all to see Develop pop off on something like an Ana, where that hit scan aim can really start to get that extra purchase when one shot from an Ana can make the difference between a pick and a survival.
And maybe some other team members that you would end up recognizing on this PANTHERA roster as well is Becky, that ended up playing on the Los Angeles Valiant last season, and Slay, who has been such a force to be reckoned with in the Korean contender scene, playing on the likes of Talon Esports, one of the top contending teams as well, looking at the 2022 season. So PANTHERA has a lot of potential in this roster, but they are going up against the likes of Dreamers after having a shaky start to their summer stage.
Oh yeah, real shaky to begin with. A lot of people would say that Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons right now are the most beatable teams, but falling 3-0 to Seoul is not an amazing look for PANTHERA. Of course, this is a team that's a lot newer, so we can expect their synergy to increase exponentially over the first couple of weeks as they start to get that time in the lobby.
They do need a little bit more practice time. As you had mentioned before, Fate ended up being promoted from this roster, so they ended up bringing in Jasmine to take up the helm of that tank role. And the tank, especially when it's a solo tank now, this has so much responsibility on their shoulders, and they are the biggest key, the biggest backbone to a lot of these teams. And if you don't necessarily have that playtime with the rest of your teammates so far, it can be really tough to get something going like a strong dive.
Yeah, on the other side, maybe someone who is going to be playing more counter dive would be Liga, who's opening up here for Dreamers. It's a little bit of a strange pick for a first map to bring in your off-tank specialist, where Winston is usually the king of dives and quick adjustments between these small battles and skirmishes that Control does allow. But we know that Liga is a fantastic diva as well, so potentially that could be a big play against Jasmine.
I love the fact that Dreamers have two different tanks that they end up getting a chance to rotate through. Liger yesterday ended up having a fantastic day on the Diva, the Sigma as well, as we ended up getting a chance to see that on Circuit Royale. But it's the Diva that is such a standout for this particular player, and just potentially reading into what PANTHERA might want to bring out in our very first map as well. So the fact that they end up having two tanks to play around too just allows both of them, Liger as well as Dreamer, to focus on the heroes that are best in their pool.
If you look at the back left, that is a fantastic unicorn. I love the slightly derpy eye. It's amazing. And you can see that Dreamers have a lot of homegrown support. There are some very well-loved players on this roster. Not only one of my personal favorites in Top Dragon, but also Dreamer himself has actually filled multiple roles for this roster. Not only the tank that we know from LA Valiant's time, but also in the past has played for double flex support and Ana as well on New Queen Street, allowing for Liga to come in and play that diva. So Dreamer's not only a Swiss Army knife or a Korean Army knife for this roster, but also a very lovable mascot as well. Like, all of Dreamer's brand, it screams whimsy, it screams friendly, but screaming in the most friendly way, of course, more like a whisper, like, yeah. And it's not hard to see why it evokes such a happy reaction from so many of our LAN attendees.
There's so much support for these contenders teams, and Love and Kiwi and I were talking about it a little bit earlier, that especially when it comes to these incredible crowds in the APAC region, they're just rooting for great Overwatch, and also, of course, their hometown favorites that they have been able to follow. So I'm so excited to get a chance to see all of this support, all of this love. This crowd looks amazing to be able to support these two contenders teams, and you really do love to see that for our growing stars.
Yeah, it's particularly important for these stars to get that time on stage as well, because, hey, these teams, there's a world where they can go all the way to our Overwatch League playoffs, which of course has been recently announced as happening in Toronto, Canada. So I'm sure at some point tickets will be available if you want to come and join us for the biggest show on earth when it comes to Overwatch. You are all more than welcome. But these teams, they need that experience on stage, and where better to get it than the WDG Arena? Oh, looks like someone's dad might be in the crowd. That's amazing. One of my favorite things about when we were casting contenders back in the day, Negra, was like Rack Attack's family was always in the chat. It's amazing to see families that gather around these young players and really support their dreams to make sure they can do exactly what they would like, because also this year in the Overwatch League, our minimum age has decreased from 18 to 17, and we're getting even younger players in now from contenders as well, which means that more than ever, it's important to present to parents just how much of an amazing dream this is for young players with their extreme talent who are pushing towards the greatest of all prizes.
That's the biggest key here. I mean, not only do you want to try to find your way up to the Overwatch League, but you have a lot of these younger players on contenders teams that get a chance to compete for a spot at the playoffs. So that familial support, absolutely important. Only 3 teams from the East get a chance to make it forward into the 2 playoff brackets that we will have in Toronto. So you're rooting for them. And some of those teams very well could be these contenders teams.
Yeah, we've got to talk that there's a realistic chance that Dreamers could make it into those top 3 APAC teams, because not only did they do so well in the knockouts previously, but right now, Guangzhou Charge might not be the best team in the world, and we've seen slip-ups even from teams like Seoul Infernal having dropped that control map to Poker Face. There are openings that can definitely be exploited, and Dreamers, even after having their roster picked apart by the Vultures looking for their own upgrades, have been able to continually show off some amazing gameplay.
I'm only laughing because Seoul Infernal, they might have rebranded from the Philadelphia Fusion, but they're definitely living up to the Philly name a little bit with the
wouldn't it be the most Philly thing to lose out on a grand final spot to a contenders team?
No. I mean, their control win rate was never the best in the league, but sometimes they do take that one map to actually ramp up, and that's something that we ended up seeing earlier today as well. So yeah, it is definitely rough stuff out there for them, but they still make a strong case for themselves, especially along the likes of Dallas Fuel, who are sitting undefeated after their win earlier on today versus O2 Blast. But Dreamers, I love that you brought up the fact that they did find themselves in the finals of their knockout bracket, unfortunately having to face off against the likes of the Hangzhou Spark and ending their journey there, but they could absolutely be in the top 3 teams heading to the playoffs.
Love of a Korean cast here. That's signed for Changsik, who many of you may recognize from his previous tenure, not only in many contenders but also in Overwatch League. Is that a raccoon? Show me the raccoon with a syringe. What is inside there? I'm willing to bet it's liquefied kale.
It's healing. It's like a Bionade maybe, but like green. I don't know, but Develop is surely developing into one of the best talent that we have seen come out of the APAC region, and there's even more to come as you look forward to the rest of these summer stage matches as well.
Our fans over in the WDG Arena, some excellent art even at the bottom of the screen as well. So emotive. I'm very happy that we're getting to go through all the signs. And the Korean casting scene is actually burgeoning at the moment with X-Pros as well. I believe that Rascal has done some for contenders, if I'm remembering correctly. I know that we've got Myeongbun, or Myeonbong, pardon me, Myeonbong as well from Boston Uprising previously, and O2 Blast before that in our observing suite as well. So if you're wondering who's making the decisions as to what is most important to watch in these fights, Myeonbong is leading the expertise there and doing very well for us. We had a Daegun I love you sign. I imagine that's the one with the big old heart.
They have so much love. This is why I really love these
weapons grade love.
Oh, so wonderful. Yes, I am the Dreamers fan too. If Dreamers has 10 million fans, you are one. If they have 1,000 fans, you are also one. And
if Dreamers has no fans, I am dead.
Yes. And the Dreamers dead too, potentially. So
somebody blur it. Jasmine doing some manner of Kamehameha, or what was that? Was that pronounced correct?
I think so. Yes, you got it.
Give him a blast. I don't know if Jasmine plays any Moira, but I imagine that it doesn't really fit into the tank hero pool that well. Going back to our wide shot now, we will soon begin to map, I imagine. Our first map is actually going to be Ilios, which is one of the places where we have seen quite a bit of off-tank, whether it's for Xayah or much more commonly the D.Va. Got ourselves some stats here. It's worth remembering as we look into these stats that Top Dragon stats are from a win, whereas Becky's are from a loss. So that is going to be skewing them over a fairly limited data set in our summer qualifiers.
But the difference isn't that big. So despite the fact that Becky ended up playing into a loss yesterday versus the Seoul Dynasty, that's still some impressive stats to be putting up despite that loss. So I'm expecting a really close match between these two Tracer players as we are finally going to start getting into our match. Thank you for the patience. Let's kick things off on Ilios.
All right, heading over to the beautiful Grecian Islands. Ilios is likely going to be all about trying to bully that Winston. That's why Liga has made it in here. But D.Va just does so much to make sure that the Winston cannot achieve their aims effectively. The damage onto the Winston shield is sublime as well, simply because D.Va does not have to reload, meaning that you have this continuous outpouring of damage, and the closer you get towards that Winston, the more damage you can do, making it increasingly dangerous for Winston to stay in a protracted fight if you want to go for the squishy supports behind that D.Va.
Not only is the damage onto the Winston bubble good and that giant hitbox that Winston does provide, but another reason that Liga is going to end up coming into the roster is not only just for the D.Va, but also potentially for the Ramatra as well. Ruins end up being a great place to be able to run the brawl, but also I think that D.Va for Liga can also provide a lot of protection if PANTHERA ends up going for the Sombra Tracer that we have seen out of them as well. That defense matrix so important, and those boosters can peel too.
All right, Top Dragon and Becky both moving away from the Symmetras, making sure that everyone's just spacing out onto the point with good haste here, and moving over to the Tracers. Sad, gonna have issues accessing Nice, who's gonna be fairly safe up here for now, but the question is, can he hit the shots that are necessary? Oh, indeed. Liga's already lost a mech. That's bad news here for Dreamers.
Dreamers might be able to get control of this point rather quickly, but if Becky has anything to say about it, then we will end up seeing the DPS duo PANTHERA get some great picks.
All right, this is what was highlighted at the beginning in our stats rows for Tracer versus Tracer. We're certainly going to be staring at for the foreseeable future.
This is where you really start to see Becky start to pull ahead a little bit. You end up actually forcing Top Dragon off of the Tracer and opting for the Echo in this instance. You still have to deal with Nason's Hanzo. It's going to be a bit difficult to be able to play around, but the pillars provide nice cover for this Echo.
Floating beam can be affected by that block if the Ramatra does decide to use it. Getting up close here is Jasmine, trying her best to get away. Hindered now, unable to really move that fast, but doesn't matter. Cross my arms and say, no, none for you. Becky, pulse in hand. Do you dare to give it over to Ramatra? That can't be blocked, but doesn't matter in this case, because Jasmine already found Sad, and that's going to be clean up easily for PANTHERA playing to their defensive prowess.
when Nice is able to get set up on these high grounds as well, not only do you lean into the mechanical skill that Nace has as a sniper player, but who can you send after him? You don't have the Diva right now as Liga is on the Ramatra, and Top Dragon would be kind of your best bet to be able to deal with that, but Nace is good. You don't really want to contest with that.
Vertical access could be an issue. Now going over onto Ramatra, pummeling Fists of Fury. Vigaria doesn't want anything but to give out pain here. Jasmine still doesn't want to use the Annihilation, holding onto it for a rainy day to make sure you can survive the onslaught moving forward. A back off here. Develop the hit scan prodigy. Yes, the quick scopes are right where they want to be, and Nice is finding the arrows that he wishes for. Now Annihilation to try and put the nails to this coffin, but at the moment surrounded Jasmine can only block in one direction. It's an exchange of damage between the Ramatras. Both of the support players make sure that they're pouring healing into their gargantuan friends at the front. Remember, those pummels, they get through the shield, so 700 HP won't last that long. Top Dragon moving back in on the Ramatra, extra armor given over, and the pummels as well towards the Vegeta, but up close it's just too difficult to do. Give Nice time and Nice will find the openings, getting aggressive onto the other Hanzo. This is bravery, this is ego, but it's gonna work out because Nice is simply different. No eat upon the dragons. It is mine that shall gobble up the opponents. PANTHERA walk away 100-0 over Dreamers.
That is dominance that I wasn't expecting, based on Dreamer's performance yesterday. But that was Ruins. Liga was on the Ramatra. Jasmine has been able to bring that out in some of the knockouts that we ended up seeing, or even just the contenders matches for Jasmine. But now it's a little bit of a different story. When we take a look at Lighthouse as well, Liga can actually come out on the Diva here, but Nice also had a bunch of problems for Dreamers to deal with.
Ooh. Stat line that's quite depressing. Only 2 kills for all of Dreamers in the entirety of that round, and both of them belong to Top Dragon.
Yeah, don't. That's sad. Like, they don't do them like that. That's doing them so dirty. Wait, they'll turn it around on well, trust.
That's cope. That's cope, Rose. But you know what? I'm a big fan of the cope. You do the nice cop. Jasmine's made it all the way to the top. There should be plenty of feeling here, just making sure to maintain that LOS with the Ana. That's something that's going to be borne in mind as we move in towards the point. Of course, both teams will have to split across there eventually to get access to the control point itself. Big smack onto the shield there of Steve, but not going to be following on through to try and make that work. Currently the boosters, so it's actually somewhat vulnerable to being knocked into the well, but now they're back, so the worries are done as Top Dragon and Becky play the periphery to try and get that aerial superiority, and Top Dragon gets the 3rd kill and 100% of the kills for Dreamers.
This is where Dreamers can absolutely turn it around, and this is why maybe it's not cope, maybe it's actually fact here, as Dreamers do perform incredibly well on this dive, especially when Liga is able to play the Diva, proving that dominance yesterday in their match versus the Shanghai Dragons, and Top Dragon's walking away with a duplicate already. I did not expect that. What?
I'll say cope, you say fact, and that's why one of us got an English degree and one of us got a science degree. Let's just put it that way. Sad.
Fair enough.
In hand, who's to go on to? Ooh, into Liga's mouth, managing to eat that one up from Nice, but sad, unable to really get anything in the kill feed off the back of that. Liga finds themselves the co-pilot Diva. A little bit aggressive here for Top Dragon, going to be punished off the back of commanding Nano onto Becky. There's going to be a duplicate to try and play with. Nice catch there to try and get that Tracer gone, but for now PANTHERA haven't been able to get much of the invested ultimate that was the developed Nano. Liga's used for self-destruct simply for a remake as Top Dragon plays around the back, develop, hiding out as best as they can. Becky drops down from the sky. It's the wrong Amari maybe, but still the Sleep is going to hit, and a little bit of survival given over. Run around the back from the Tracer. This is going to give Sleep plenty of time to move on forward. It's a rumble in the jungle, or at least in the bungalow, and the bungalow takes no prisoners as Top Dragon takes out Develop, but this seems like it's going to slowly erode PANTHERA's way, barring a miracle.
Well, we do have Luca, Top Dragon now using the duplicate to be able to play on the Tracer, so a little bit of disruption in the backline could be Dreamer's way to try to keep control of this point.
It might be Top Dragon solo. Becky finds the ending there. Liga has returned. The Pulse Bomb could be well placed, but do you want to invest anything more in this? Out it goes, but it does move wide. And now Brigitte, without too much shielding to work with, is going to be a primary target for that Tracer. It's Becky who finishes it off. Still, Liga plays their life towards the end, and that's going to be overtime for Dreamers before they have to flip it over.
Yeah, if you can't close out the round, you're very okay with walking away with 99% progress on the point. Sure, PANTHERA is able to sneak away control of it, but PANTHERA don't have too many ultimates to deal with. I mean, Becky at this point does have the duplicate, but you have to contend now with the rally from Dreamers, as well as Sad having a pulse bomb online, and he's got firm control of this high ground right now and looking to have Develop's number.
Yeah, Develop on the low ground is going to make them vulnerable, and it's exactly as you called, Rose, looking into the future. 14,601 futures, and well, we're all looking at the same one right now. A well-placed pulse bomb puts Viana into the ground, and it's easy for Dreamers to move up here. Banana boost onto the Echo is going to wear away, but a single Tracer's going up against the world, and we all know that the Brits really aren't that powerful when it comes to it. Nice, slain by the Dragon, and overtime is going to tick down 1-1.
Yeah, still Copium? Like they?
You know what? I'm gonna say that this was misclassified at the border. Lazy customs agent. I can't believe they do this.
I am excited because I think like heading over to Lighthouse as well, this is another playground for Dreamers. They get a chance to play this diva even more. And wow, Dada as well. Holy moly. That is so nice to be able to play into a tiny Overwatch for Brigitte. You'll have to see it there as Dada is staying hydrated, moisturized, in his lane, unbothered. Get a chance to look at this next round. Lighthouse is even better for this composition from Dreamers, and you can see how Liga is able to diff Jasmine a little bit on this particular hero. You get the self-destruct online so often, and then you're able to just kind of keep up the pressure having those remakes.
Hail Mary finds Liga, but Top Dragon does a good job of making sure that Becky can't get into a position to find that focusing beam. For now, doesn't want to overplay their hand to try and get that aerial superiority. They're going to be moving into the hands of the enemy Ana. Oh, Jasmine will be able to get back onto Terra Firma at least. Not going to be thrown away for too long. Has developed. Oh, was free casting for a while. Decides to move off the high ground now. That's going to make them vulnerable to a flank from a Tracer.
Jasmine gets so low here as well, and so just going to be a quick cleanup here onto PANTHERA as Dreamers are able to take control of the point once again, and now this gives them so much space to be able to have that territorial control closer to PANTHERA's spawn. So as they end up moving into the point, look how much damage Top Dragon can get and focus down onto Becky, as well as Nace gonna, wow, overextend here.
Yeah, this won't make it inviable for Develop to play on the high ground, and that would be terrible. Now having to play inside instead. This does give a little bit of cover away, of course, from Top Dragon on the Echo, but oh, that's a nasty playing of Yellow S from Becky, unaware of where the Ana was playing from, so there was no hope to be given. League are going to chase out their counterpart here, but Dreamers know not to overplay this, otherwise they could be stretched too thin by Nice, who has a pulse bomb to try and make work if they so desire. Everyone inside that nasty little ground means that Sard could be sniffing out a pulse bomb over here. Oh, it's victims, but it's a good nose that he's found. And it's Slave that will be a victim of that. The Echo. Nano, gonna be answered. Both Echoes given over. Still, it's a stalemate here.
I really love the way that Dreamers ended up playing that as well. So much focus fire down onto Jasmine as well as the rest of that room. Forced Jasmine to have to use most of that defense matrix. So not really an ability to be able to try to keep up that pulse bomb. Big pick. Now we have to see them try to come into this one in last fight territory.
Huge eat there from Liga. Becky's off the map. You can't fly when you're an Amari, my guy. Big stick from Nice at least gets rid of the rally. But still, it's going to be yet another Anna. But what happened from Top Dragon? I don't know why these are the chosen duplicates of the day, but it seems to not be working out in either case. Still, Top Dragon happy to return to the natural form, as that's where he's at his best. A beautiful anti. Gets rid of both Slee and brings Nice so low. A recall to travel back in time, but we're going to replay a timeline that has an unhappy ending. Sombra, yes, can get back quickly, but you're not going to be able to get back quickly enough. 100-0 here as Dreamers once again slay what I call copium.
Facts. I told you. Just facts. When I speak to that, I'm really talking about the data that we end up seeing, though, from Liga's D.Va. We got a chance to see this completely pop off yesterday, and Liga just continuing to live up to the mechanical skill that he has on the D.Va itself. It's not even saying that PANTHERA is even a bad team, but Liga just has so much individual impact, and you get a chance to see how much of a swivel Liga has with defense matrix. You saw him constantly being able to heal for the supports of Dada and Nissen, but also just eating up the damage that PANTHERA was throwing their way. Excellent stuff.
Liga opening up this well for Dreamers. Still, there is so much more to go in our Contenders Clash here on LAN. We'll see how it goes after this break. What's up, cool kids? We're back. Overwatch League 2023 season returning to your screens, and we got ourselves a beautiful LAN going on here between two of our contenders teams who've managed to slip the net and get into our Overwatch League Summer Qualifiers. Dreamers versus PANTHERA is starting a lot more competitively than we might have thought.
It was a great showing there from PANTHERA on Ruins, but then as soon as we had a switch over to more classic dive maps and Lighthouse, that was where Liga was able to show off those impressive diva mechanics to be able to get the wins very convincingly on both of those rounds. And I don't know if it gets any easier here for PANTHERA. When we take a look at moving forward in our map pool, it's two maps that are really dive favored when you look at Midtown and Gibraltar, and our preset map pools being next up on the list.
Yeah, preset map pools, I sometimes forget that they exist, just because I do love loser picks.
Well, because Opens was different.
Yeah, Opens was loser picks to give everyone the best chance they had to try and get themselves forward, but you're right, one of the things with these preset map pools is that occasionally it can really mean bad things for a team that is a little bit better at the brawl, and for Ramatra versus the Ramatra, pretty solidly in favor of PANTHERA IMO, but we're not going to see much option to go for that on either Midtown or Gibraltar. Still, Liga doesn't want to be having any of that noise. Dreamer is returning. The captain himself, dreams do come true. Not coming in for support, coming in to play tank, of course. We could expect a lot of Winston here.
Absolutely. I mean, Dreamer is 100% a main tank player. The Reinhardt was super impressive yesterday, but the Winston also was able to come out in their victory. But didn't get a chance to see like too much of that. I think it was like a quick swap. Maybe I'm totally misremembering, because Dreamer did only play Lijiang as the first map of that series. But regardless, Dreamer's been able to show up in their East knockouts, and so really hoping to be able to see some of that Winston play here, as you should expect to see that coming out from PANTHERA, as they did end up playing Midtown yesterday. And leg day, I really hope that I didn't bring the C9 curse here to this matchup. I didn't cast that one yesterday, but they did end up having a C9 on Midtown.
Well, we got to look at the wider data set here, though, Rose. If we're going to talk about a C9 curse, how has it been over in the West, over in North America? Have you been presiding over a large number of C9s? I remember a pretty pointed tweet from Overwatch League of you face palming at a C9. Did you drag that over here to our pristine shores?
No, I actually think that I ended up getting the pauses. So, like, Achilleos actually transferred his curse to me, and I swapped. So that Seth and Avril actually got the C9s. They actually casted both of those yesterday for PANTHERA. And sadly on Midtown, I think you could still chalk it up to it would have been a win for the other team there. There was just a 3v4. PANTHERA had 3, probably wasn't going to be able to get the win in that attack push, but like, yeah, still have to like try your best to get there.
Yeah, this might be a symptom of what happened to PANTHERA potentially. With the loss of Fate, you have like the big brother tank. You really make sure that everyone sticks to the plan, right? Whereas when you're bringing in a new tank, yes, Pigeon nodding, it makes it a little bit harder potentially to be straightforward and maybe well considered in terms of how all of your comms go. Ooh, nice disengage there by Nice, just in time after getting hit by the anti. Played it a little bit too bravely for my hopes, as Sad just gonna do a little bit of a back cap here, try and drag back that Winston, and there, surely not a tick. Surely not a tick. There we go.
Okay. Sad has to translocate here. Has to get out of the way, but it's alright. Dreamer's actually still alive and well to be able to come back into this one. And I actually misspoke a little bit earlier. PANTHERA came out on the Summer Tracer, not the Echo on this map. And so gonna continue to lean into this one here, but this is all about the battle of the health packs and also who can actually draw the first blood. And it looks like Dada now gonna go down first.
Oh, that was a real brave dive there from Jasmine. Only 50% HP, but still tried to make it work. Good sightline from Developer, who is leading slightly in terms of the nano boost charge. A good sleep onto Jasmine might make them an easy execution to get caught on the side here, but Varda grenades coming through from both sides. Signal for retreat of the Winston. The scientist must fade into the Nightfall once more. Top Dragon battled up upon from behind. Nice health back steal and another from Becky. Bloody hell, he's crazy with the blinks and he's crazier with the pulse bomb. Oh, Becky, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Oh, Becky.
Yeah, I could not have said that better myself, honestly. I love that. I love that you're able to pull that out of your bag of tricks there. And Becky as well, with such an impressive pulse bomb, has been able to help out PANTHERA to keep this defense up and alive. Dreamers have struggled at this point to be able to get in here, but they're walking up with 5 ultimates in the bank, and PANTHERA are going to have to rely on this rally from Slay to be able to withstand this, or maybe even AMP in the response.
EMP onto Dreamer. Just take away the ability to use that primal ray, so cannot save himself. There should be Dreamers backing on out here. They can't do so without a tank to generate that space. Don't want to overinvest the EMP into a bad fight, and so, once again, back to a stalemate.
PANTHERA have been so good at being able to find value, though, of just one ultimate. Top Dragon not necessarily getting the impact of the pulse bomb here, but hopefully this EMP is a little bit different, but the Nano!
Nano is well placed, does block off some healing with the shield here, but Slay continues to survive. Everything's going in towards this Brigitte. I want him dead. I want everyone else that he knows. I want his favorite color dead, they say, as Dreamer's taken out even more now. The entire support line floundered, broken down, disintegrated into dust, yes. But PANTHERA, they still can work the margin, skirmish on the edges. Top Dragon's found by Nice in the midst of all of this, and Jasmine's still alive to make sure that the Tesla coil racks the nerves of any who dare to move forward. A minute remains for Dreamers, trying to re-engage now with a nano boost. Does give Dreamer a little bit more power behind his right click. Still chasing Becky, might well be a lost cause. It's a delayed landing onto a Brigitte, yes, to deliver the damage, but Dardar's already been taken out elsewhere. Meeson's been found stuck by Top Dragon, but there should be more than enough healing here to make sure that Winston stays alive. A 10-player kill streak for Becky, and Dreamers, they can't make it through.
Jasmine got a 3k there to be able to completely stop Dreamer's push. They started down to making some progress there as Meeson ended up donating over that nano to Dreamer, but at the end of the day, we end up seeing PANTHERA continue to come out on top, and now another pulse bomb from Becky. That could be another stick. Buy some time for Nace to get this EMP online, and we're looking at a potential full hold here for PANTHERA.
Beautiful stick. Becky moves away from that to make sure they're not going to be a victim of their own ultimate. Dreamer taken out as well. Finished off by Slee, Meeson, and the supports next on the buffet. The 15-course meal, and PANTHERA more than happy to chew on through that one. The big cats have found their prey. They've taken their art-shaped derb, and it feels like this one is all over but the crying. The dream might not be dead, but it certainly is unconscious right now as Dreamer can't touch the point.
Holy cow, PANTHERA. I am loving this dive look here. We haven't necessarily gotten a chance to see Dreamer's Winston tested like this. But Jasmine really showing up today. That was some insane Winston play. So much awareness about where Jasmine needed to place himself to be able to follow up on Becky, follow up on Nace, to give them the space to be able to work with. And Becky with so many pulse bomb sticks, so much coordination with Nace in this defense that the full hold is able to come through, and PANTHERA, love it.
One of the things that's most important here about Becky and Nace, 0 deaths each. Bros, they're playing so well, even when we have seen develop and Slay die. Nace and Becky, they just fade into the fog. They roll their stealth checks, they hit the nat 20, and they simply play from behind at the same time, playing around the peripheries of the point to make sure that Dreamers can't even get that first tick. It's crazy how long these guys are living.
That sustainability has been absolutely huge. I feel like Slay has just had such a big part of that. The cookies that he's able to give over to Nace and Becky have been able to bolster up their attacks, to be able to take these 1v1s, to be able to take down the back line of Dreamers. And oh boy, Dreamers have to full hold this too to play for a draw. And that just feels like an insurmountable task here with how PANTHERA have been playing these dives.
3 Overwatch might well be dead unless it's going to be a format 3-0. That isn't feeling incredibly likely. PANTHERA seem to have been gifted with a map that they are incredibly competent on. Becky needs to disengage. Doesn't want to grab their first death here. Got to play the stats. That's the most important thing, Rose.
Stats are good. The stats are good. I think they really do speak to PANTHERA being able to take this single tick with very little problem. But Top Dragon has to show up in top 4 today.
Sheesh. Nice clip there onto Becky. This is a little bit of a brave location for Dreamer to be while antied. Forced to 180 from their own Ana, but still survival paramount. Remember, at this point, you cannot give away a tick on this point. This may force some bad positioning here from a defense of Dreamers, and that's why so many are just piling themselves up upon this point. It's Top Dragon who takes the responsibility, takes this point into his own hands, and says that I will be the one who makes sure this does not slip our grip. Dreamer, for now, skirmishing against the support, but it's not for DPS to really break through or find themselves a break point. What they can do is distract from healing Jasmine, who's taking considerable amounts of damage. Top Dragon harassed constantly by this Sombra. Had enough of these shenanigans and attempted a stick. It goes too wide to find itself some prey, but Top Dragon on the other side has been hunting in their own right. And Slee's going to be a victim.
Victim now has the rally online though, and that's going to be great to be able to deal with these dual EMPs. We ended up seeing PANTHERA be able to get the better of these EMPs when it was EMP versus EMP on their attack round, or defensive round, and now we gotta kind of see that again. Sad has to get into a position for this one. Mace wants to be able to use the second.
One of those brains, everyone. 8 ults available in this fight. Jasmine can't use the primal rage. That's going to be one that's off the table. An early pick onto the tank is a great choice to make sure that there's simply no space for PANTHERA to work with, even if they do have the resources to try and make it work. Becky, Top Dragon simply blinks into Becky. Gets smacked up the backside of the head. Lovely assist coming through. Nice eyes on Meeson here. Out goes Banana Boost. It's on to Dreamer, but Nice only wants the Ana. A good takeout on that translocator means that it might be difficult for Sad to try and extricate themselves from Miss Dardar's next to full. Dreamer, yes, he's mad, but anger management given him a form of a hacked electronics. Turn off Twitter, it says. It'll make you feel much better. Top Dragon on the point simply cannot win a 1 versus 3, and the same could be said of Dreamers. There's no touch on the point, and PANTHERA strike back, bringing us 1-1.
Looks like the practice that PANTHERA got yesterday, despite a loss on Midtown, was good enough to be able to tie up the series so far. The Silver Tracer Winston dive looked fantastic. It was only a matter of time with the time bank that they had to work with and only needing 1/3 of the pie that they were able to take it from Dreamers.
And boy, that pie does taste good. Oh, a nice slice of New York pie. Oh man, one day when I come to America, I really want to try myself a New York slice. But right now, PANTHERA, they're going to be planning potentially a victory dinner for the team. 1-1 here as PANTHERA strike back on Midtown. This one's going to be a banger on land. Don't go anywhere during this break. Keep calm and pray, but Becky does not know your location. What a Tracer performance, earmarking a victory for PANTHERA on Midtown. We're running it down, yes, Midtown, but we're all done there. Moving over next to Watchpoint Gibraltar, which means it's going to be more Winston and maybe more pain for Dreamers.
Yeah, so what's really interesting about Dreamers, and something that I was remembering about their dive, was how dominant it was in the East knockouts, but that was with a pretty different lineup. You've got Sad and Top Dragon coming into the DPS roles after losing such star DPS in Easy Han and Spectra. They both got picked up for Overwatch League teams, and when you have to kind of recalibrate the dive with new DPS, it could come with some growing pains here. And that's not something that PANTHERA has to deal with too much because they only really lost their tank. They get a chance to play with like the Somber Tracer or that like Naste and Becky have been working on for a long time here.
Yeah, Naste and Becky, the synergy has been developed over a number of seasons here. Sad, I'm told, from our inside source of Unknown, has recently moved over back from Flex support as well, actually doing the inverse develop, so might take a little bit to get used to that Tracer again. Of course, it's like they've been running it down in rank to when we cannot see elsewhere. And of course, Dreamers do have Dart on the roster as well if they do want to make some substitutions, but that's not going to be the case here as we move back over to Watchpoint Gibraltar. And one of the things we're going to be looking for, certainly, is Top Dragon and Sad just syncing up a little bit more with Dreamer. They've got to listen to El Capitan.
I think something else that you are need to consider as well if you are watching Dreamers is that they also lost Donghoon, which was a really big key for them, playing a lot of Brigitte and not necessarily, and Lucio as well. That it's just such a strong and key component to the dive. So, you know, we have to see Dada kind of start to figure out how to be able to support Sad and Top Dragon as best as they can, and that also requires a lot of synergy to be able to execute these dives. I'm hoping that when we get a chance to look at maybe a different DPS lineup here from Sad and Top Dragon, or the choices that they're going to make, that could be a difference maker in this one. But so far, PANTHERA are looking very clean and able to execute these dives very well.
All smiles from PANTHERA. It's a far cry from being freed by Dynasty. What a knockback there. Forces out Sad's recall. That's going to mean that aggression is not on his mind for the meantime. Instead, he's going to be playing a little bit more counter dive, just making sure that no one can really close the distance onto those vulnerable Brigittas. What a shot from Slee. Slee is absolutely dominating Sad in this Tracer versus Whipshot kind of dichotomy right now.
It's been so good so far, and that's really where you can see a big difference in the Brigittas. Is also when we take a look at some of the other ones on other teams, those whip shots are really important. You want to be able to protect your Ana with those shield bashes and whip shots.
Gosh, moving. There was some pressure there. Likely the product of Becky's movement. Remember, getting up to the high ground here, not easy for the Tracer, so Becky's going to be eternally consigned to cart duty. A 1v1 against Sad. This has been a pretty dominant 1v1 for Becky thus far, whether it's against Top Dragon or against Sad thus far. And Dreamer's actually holding the support line hostage. What a nade! That is absolutely beautiful from Meesin. Just lays PANTHERA down on their back and forces Jasmine to just move back into a little hidey hole.
Dreamer doing some squats over there, just kind of like getting some leg work in as you're gonna get a chance to see a bit of a workout. Yeah, for you, just for you, leg day.
Yeah, it's approved.
It's certainly paying off as well as Dreamers are able to stop this attack push from PANTHERA. Need to send them back to the drawing board a little bit, as Neeson's actually been able to grab a ton of ultimate charge based on how aggressive Dreamer has been, able to get a bunch of that healing in, but Becky taking out Sad. This could be a huge opportunity here for PANTHERA to be able to get a pulse bomb on the map.
Yeah, opening on the card as well, but he's continually given attention to. Dreamer in the back, doesn't want to overplay their hand here. knows that the respawns could be troublesome, but think about where C and Develop are right now in relation to this actual point. They're going to take forever to get here, but it doesn't matter. Jasmine wants to take matters into his own angry mix. His cores are going, yes, up against the Echo, but too much healing's going their way, so greener pastures might be found elsewhere. Becky's found themselves Dada, and finally the supports are taken apart. Slay and Develop eventually are able to rejoin with the team.
A little bit of revenge there. Don't worry. Becky's got your back too. And hey, Tracer really needs that work and that blink day, huh? Super speedy. Able to get those blinks in nice and fast. But PANTHERA, what a strong attack push. They had 4 minutes entering into the hangar. Slay and Develop able to hold on to their ultimates as well. So you might be able to see a snowball here as you get the chance to donate that nano over to Jasmine, who
the Tracer's
takes a nap.
Of electric Winstons. Big naps over here. Dreamer having a nap of his own. It's everybody's sleepy time. Give him my milk. It's nap time. I want to sit down with a warm glass. As Sad puts Becky to bed. This is going to be a reset here for the side of PANTHERA. And now you are in the weeds. The redesign on Gibraltar has made it easier, yes, to attack, but getting onto those high ground born supports is still a real pain.
It's so tough too when you have to deal with a Winston that has been honestly living up to some hype here. And something about Jasmine that I think is particularly interesting is that Jasmine was a off-tank player for a long time. And so having to kind of fill in the gaps as a solo tank player now in Overwatch 2, you can see how much work they've really put into trying to master this hero as is necessary. But PANTHERA is getting stopped at the door once again.
Top Dragon simply floats like a butterfly between these two potential modes of ingress, making sure that anyone who dares to show their face can't be getting through with full HP, and it feels increasingly difficult for PANTHERA to be able to actually break through any of these zones. A new angle of approach maybe is given over, as Dreamer could be isolated for a second. Nice anti! This could actually be a kill here, but no. Banana boost the other way, coming through from the side. Top Dragon unable to secure the kill. There's going to be a nice anti onto both the support. Top Dragon wants the 1 versus 2, gets the first, the second might be forthcoming. It's Dreamer who picks it up in the end, but hey, a kill's a kill. And PANTHERA stymied, but not without a little bit of additional cart progress, likely Becky's doing.
Becky has to try to push it a little bit more forward, because then PANTHERA can end up taking control of the ship and go from there. Then you don't have to invest as many cooldowns if you can just drop onto the enemy team. But PANTHERA at this point, as the cart starts to work backwards, is going to have to try to push that forward once again. And that's where Dreamers can take strong control on the defense.
Remove the Primal. This could be a massive tool for trying to get people off that high ground. Well-placed nade. Keeps Slay on their toes for now. Jasmine's popped themselves a Primal Rage. No, there's going to be no connection there with the sleep. Sad doesn't want to take the 1 versus 2 as Jasmine looks elsewhere, hoping to get a little bit of healing, but Anna's distracted. Develop wants to take on the Winston all by themselves. Dreamer's disengaged though, does give over a little bit of space. And Nana wants for a Brigitte. Not the most useful here, but likely for survival instead. EMP takes away most of Dreamer's health and makes sure that there's no bubble to play with as well. Sad next to come in. The 1 versus 2 against double flankers, backed up by the Brigitte. A lovely sleep to shut down the Nana onto the Echo, and Top Dragon's not going to be getting too much out of that as well. A hack and anti. Everyone hates Top Dragon. We're all hunting today, and Dragon Slayers there are plenty on Dreamers.
That's been a great cycle of ultimates here, but credit to Dreamers because they were able to get so much time off the clock, and they get a chance to come in for another contest with the rally.
Rally stuns could be found, indeed, onto the other Brigitte. What an anti that makes this happen. Still, you've got to be cautious, keeping people on that cart. Time's about to run out here. It's now or never for contenders PANTHERA, but they have no ultimate to try and make this one work. Dreamer simply bullies Develop into the corner. And that's going to be it. 1 point and almost a completion of second is all PANTHERA can walk away with here in our Winston versus Winston dive mirror.
Maybe a Winston versus Winston dive mirror, but where you end up seeing a big difference is in the DPS choices. Tracer, Echo, much better look here for Dreamers when they are able to stop that cart just shy of point B. And that's a little bit different than the Sober Tracer we ended up seeing coming out from them on Midtown. Sad just being able to operate with that Tracer just a little bit better, and this is just the look that we ended up seeing on Well and Lighthouse on Ilios that ended up being such a big key to success on that map for them, even though Liga was on the roster to play the Diva. So turning things down just a little bit. We still have another round. I don't want to call it over just yet, but Dreamers definitely look better than what they did on Midtown.
A DPS choice was really sticking out to me, but we actually saw quite a bit of Ilios as well. Is that it seems like almost all of our players who decide to pick up Echo are actually duplicating the Ana currently. And it gives a little bit of a power spike to these dives with the instant barter grenade that you can get off the back of that. And maybe this duplicate of an Ana is a theory craft against just how much healing a Brigitte and an Ana can push out in a cross-healing scenario to try and pick up those kills. So I'll be interested to see if this kind of becomes a crystallized trend over Overwatch League.
That's actually a great observation because we've seen that in the West as well. And that's not typical choice of a duplicate that you would think about seeing. You would maybe say, okay, Winston, great tanky pressure to be able to bolster up the front line, or maybe you end up going ahead and duplicating the Sombra, get a cheeky EMP online and try to finish off a fight that way. But I would love to see if the Ana choice continues here as Dreamers come out of the gate once again with the Tracer Echo and Top Dragon already showing up.
Excellent tracking there, making sure the focusing team gets maximum value on the Jasmine. One of the things that's going to be most important to look at here is how they handle card pressure with only the Tracer and not a Sombra who can try and make that. Dreamers actually appeared behind them. Peekaboo, he's behind you boys, but he still manages to get out despite all of that. Dreamer going to be hunted. PANTHERA remaining pretty aggressive on their defense, but that's necessary. You've got to hold what space you have when you can't capture more because the Dreamer's dead. Or Jasmine's dead, rather.
I mean, Sad was still able to push that card so far forward. It's actually already past the car wash, which is such a big boon for Dreamers when they end up taking approach for the attack once again, because you don't necessarily have to contend with the cart underneath. You can take this high ground instead and then go down and drop onto the cart, but Becky meets Dreamer at the front door.
Yeah, now Becky knows exactly what is needed. Nice little bit of attack there from Top Dragon, just making sure not to wake up the Sombra with the stickies, instead just with the explosive damage. It's going to force PANTHERA to cede away a little bit of ground, and that's a precious bit of breathing room for Dreamers to work with.
PANTHERA does have to move back, but it's now time for the nano boost as Jasmine starts to make their way back in.
Jasmine wants Top Dragon, but Top Dragon's getting plenty of healing. What a shield to actually spot off with Neeson and Dada as well, but Dreamers still yet to invest in this fight. They've got almost 5 ultimates to play with. Top Dragon needs support in here. It's going to come in the form of a nano boost. That just became Northern for a single syllable. That's okay. Top Dragon looks to the skies and then looks to the door, and it's a full cap already. PANTHERA just phased into the mist.
20 seconds more in the time bank here. The Dreamers get to work with over what PANTHERA had going into this second point. And Dreamers already have control of the high ground. They've got 4 ultimates in the bank. They have pledged to be able to contest with the TMP.
My Brigitte, I am the Alpha Lindholm as everybody's getting smacked around in the ship. Oh my goodness. Hal would not approve, as there's going to be some violence between the scientists. This is not how we settle if a hypothesis is disproven or not, lads. Peer review is the way. Jasmine does survive. Trusted Brigitte behind them, but now face down with 2 supports. That cross heal is going to be pretty strong. Difficult to try and get real value out of the dive here, especially with these low ceilings. An anti-nade gets Slee. Jasmine too, as Dada going to be able to win out in that Lindholm duel still. Slowly, Dreamers are losing the space and losing their HP as well. Nice continues to inch on forward, eroding space bit by bit, chip by chip, skin particle by skin particle. They take away with the submachine gun.
Dreamers still moving this cart forward as well. They don't have a whole lot of progress yet on this second objective, but PANTHERA also don't have a whole lot of life. Jasmine's already down.
Crikey. Huge there from Top Dragon. Pulls Banana. Slee's gonna be the target. It's easy as they come. Miss it elsewhere takes out Becky. PANTHERA low on personnel, but high on the EMP. Nice can turn this around. A hero for PANTHERA.
Nice, maybe able to turn this around, but it depends on whether or not there's any follow-up here from PANTHERA. There's already a huge anti in the back line.
Grim loses the shield, doesn't lose his life though, manages to disengage fairly well. Sad having to use that recall, doesn't mean that aggression not going to be on the cards. to this particular little DPS lead. So much in the way of the nades, but it's okay. Develop still has this nice, good territory control as well. Takes away the Mega. Dada doesn't even see it coming. It's a smack to the back of the head. A big old concussion is going to be given away, and that's going to be a develop, or rather a duplicate coming through from Top Dragon. Really wants a quick EMP, or at least a touch of survival, or Dreamer plays for the car itself, buying this space and making sure that he can't be a big factor. An EMP takes away the potential to use the pulse, and he survived long enough to make it happen. A recall comes on through. Now the hack is gone, and the rally's arrived as well in the form of Slee. PANTHERA, they've stolen this out from under Dream, but they need to be cognizant of how little breathing room they have with this car.
That was an amazing defense coming out from PANTHERA, especially because Top Dragon may have been able to be a difference maker. The duplicate use there, I agree with it. Go for the EMP, try to be able to close out the fight despite the fact that you didn't have Dada there. But you gotta be careful. Dreamer's waiting for an opportunity here to use the Primal as well.
Huge bait, grabs everyone inside. That's going to force out the Nano as recompense to try and keep that Brigitte alive, kicking and healthy. Jasmine survives through the Pulse Bomb using the Primal Rage. The power of anger is more powerful than plastic explosives. There's a big stick, it's on the rally, but a Nano? No, some other manner of disengagement was used. Maybe Dada managed to juggle that onto the shield or something. Jasmine down next, and everyone's falling from PANTHERA's. Yes, they're endangered, but now they're extinct. 2-1 to Dreamers as Watchpoint Gibraltar comes to a close.
Echo is one of Top Dragon's best heroes, and we got a chance to see yet another example of why that is. Top Dragon actually able to lock down the door. We didn't see Slay and Develop a part of that fight because of how much pressure the Echo was putting onto the backline. Gibraltar ends up going their way. We got match point already for Dreamers. Can they continue this? They gotta be able to get another map down, and it's coming down to the wire.
The dream is alive. The precedents are shattered. Yes, the Winston dive was better for PANTHERA on Midtown, but on Gibraltar, where Winston rules over every single wave, PANTHERA are stopped too early, and Dreamers just about managed to squeak out the map. Next up, we're going to Push, where everything is going to be thrown to the wind. Do not go anywhere. It's a battle of Apex Predators here at the Overwatch League. The Unicorns of Dreamers going up against the Panthers of PANTHERA thus far has given us a 2-1 advantage to our lightly coloured team in the Dreamers. And we're learning some of the con-dos and some of the con-don'ts of playing against Dreamers. One of the con-don'ts is that you can't allow your entire support line to be zoned by an Echo Stickies.
It's tough when you have to go against Top Dragon's Echo, though. Top Dragon has been able to play so aggressively, especially when the duplicate is online, because you end up getting a chance to have a second life. And if you duplicate the Ana, as we've seen as a bit of a trend coming out from our Echoes as of late, then you have the ability as well to put them to sleep, get an anti, like just a really nice way to be able to keep all of the DPS and also supports in check.
Like, Ana in particular is particularly... It's a particularly alluring siren call to a projectile DPS player, right? Because both of her skill shots are very heavily predicated upon that projectile aim, both for nade and, of course, for sleep as well. Here's a quick look at something that doesn't require as much aim. Well, maybe a little bit more these days with the right click. Here's Dreamer on Winston for Watchpoint Gibraltar. Plenty has been done here, and remarkably low deaths as well. There's been some good support coming through from both Meeson and Dada, even when consistently under siege by Jasmine.
Dreamer did play the Winston incredibly well during the East knockouts. That is a hero that I remember Dreamer really showing up on, and that was the reason why they were able to have such a strong lower bracket run to be able to find themselves in the finals of their Eastern double elimination bracket. So to be able to put up these numbers as well really sets up Dreamers for success. We are heading over to Esperanza as our push map, and it's another pretty classic dive map for both of these teams to operate on. But it becomes a lot harder to be able to run the Echo, which has been a huge difference maker Top Dragon has brought to the table.
Yeah, that Echo has been such a big tool for Dreamers thus far, especially in providing this consistent threat to the supports. But also, one of the things about the Echo is that the threat of that focusing beam can create a bit of reticence in the enemy Ana, that they might need to save the nano boost to try and save a Winston from the huge amount of damage that an Echo can bring to bear, and that might make for inopportune use of a nano boost, which is so important when it comes to these engages. Still, the Echo not as effective, like you said, on Esperanza. Not only is there a lack of aerial cover with not too much high architecture with the exception of that central pavilion, but also it's got an incredibly low skybox, so you can't really work against the damage drop-off of something like a Tracer or a Sombra either.
It's not impossible, but it would be very, very difficult. Yeah, I don't advise that one, and you can already see Dreamers hovering over the Sombra Tracer dive that we ended up seeing from them on Midtown. However, it's a little bit different this time because PANTHERA's actually coming out of the gates with the Ramatra and the Hanzo, which, if you're not going to play the mirror, maybe that ends up favoring Dreamers just a little bit better. But this was a strong look from PANTHERA, as we saw on Ruins, when we did end up seeing them come out with the Hanzo Tracer Ramatra on there as well, and they did get the win on that round. So let's see how the dive versus Ramatra fares.
Yeah, casting back our minds to that Grecian Odyssey. But will it be a successful Iliad, or will we simply be sailing at sea for years and years when I'm pretty sure I parked my island around here somewhere? Dreamer for now just plays the margins. Throwaway nade actually brings Dada down into the purple, and that's going to require a lot of... Oh, that's a beautiful clip from Top Dragon. Nice. It can't be finished here. Double pocket comes through, but that means that there's just not enough to try and make sure that Dreamer's going to be answered when he moves on in. Ramatra was elsewhere, sleeping on the job. Is he dreaming of electric sheep? Is he dreaming of slaughtering humans in an Omnic uprising? Who knows?
This is definitely one of the weaknesses of the Ramatra, is that you have an incredibly immobile tank, as well as the Hanzo that, yes, you have the wall climb, you have the ability to strafe away, but it's still a juicy target for this dive, especially if you can hack that Hanzo and remove a bunch of its utility. So we see Jasmine switch over to the Winston right away after getting dropped in that first attack, but Dreamers have a lot of momentum to work with.
Oh, what an excellent bit of info gather there, making sure the Dreamer can get everything he wants and more out of that dive. Cleaving through multiple people now, but you know that he wants Nice more than anybody else. Double pocket should allow for Nice to survive, but it's not about where the healing's going, it's about where it's not. And Becky and Jasmine were victims of that, as we saw all of that backcore hit out. Nice stick there, but not without its punishment. Still, butt scratch mode. Necra, it is enabled.
Dreamers getting this checkpoint is such a huge swing for them as well. Knowing that Sad can also get set up in the backline with the CMP, and PANTHERA's off kilter a little bit with their ultimates. Jasmine had to give up the Ramatra, give up a lot of that ult charge as well, and so you have to wait for Jasmine to get this Primal online. At the very least, you do have Develop's Nano Boost to help be able to get that ultimate online a little bit faster, but Sad is still in the back.
Oh, and Sad finds themselves fronting up against the Brigitte. Usually it's a little bit more scary, but when you've got the EMP and you've got Top Dragon at your back, it becomes a lot more brave. Becky does get a revenge kill here onto Dreamer, but if Nice is staggered, this could be brutal. Some well-placed heals from Develop, keep the Archer relevant in this conversation for now. But Barricade's still moving.
Is the Dragon Strike has potential to buy some space for PANTHERA to be able to make their way back into the middle of the map. But this is still a pretty sizable lead that Dreamers have been able to accumulate.
Nano given onto Jasmine. Sleep doesn't impact, and that's going to be bisecting away the Anna with the Dragon Strike. Still no kills thus far. A third ult coming out. Hacked, slept, all the control going over onto the wayward Winston, but still survives all of this. PANTHERA, they invested so much, and yet they've gained so little. Jasmine could be the next victim. A well-placed stick onto his back. The spine is blown apart. Your vertebrae are no match for me and my C4. Dreamers continue to just take away inch after inch of well-bought space from PANTHERA. Becky in the back pocket. A nice stick maybe onto that Brigitte would be ideal.
Gonna happen though. We have the Brigitte still alive. Dreamers kiting away for some of this damage. They get a chance to just play defense here now. That's 83 meters on the board, and PANTHERA still has yet to make any sort of meaningful progress into their side of the map. Sad on backline too. Oh no, no, no. Dreamers are already set up in the front line, and Sad could just hit the CMP and find the follow-up there with Dreamer.
EMP is good to go. Develop is crushed underfoot as a well-placed anti-nade takes their life away. Becky has managed to win the Tracer 1 versus 1 here, and that could mean that bot control gets a little bit more complicated. But PANTHERA already have enough on their mind. Jasmine cannot escape the clutches of Sad, who can see them through the walls. The blood-hunting senses of the Sombra easily find a wayward scientist. And Becky struggling against the current, but still, Neptune claims him.
I wasn't super impressed with Sad Sombra when we got a chance to look at Midtown, but I think that was more of a testament to how well we ended up seeing PANTHERA be able to play that defense. Nice getting set up meant that it was way harder for Sad to be able to get into the back line, but now that the wind is in Dreamer's sails, Sad is having his way with PANTHERA right now.
Absolutely is. Jasmine demands healing, but no! Oh, Develop decides not to send him a nano, and that means that the tank is now gone. So too is the Brigitte. Oh, the nano from Develop, it seems to have meant nothing. Maybe Slee was anti there or something, or simply could not survive it with the nano elsewhere. Either way, it's a disaster for PANTHERA, even more gained by Dreamers.
They could just get the full capture here. Sad is close to another EMP. It's gonna be Slay still, Sep's 30% away from getting this rally online as a response, and despite the fact that Becky does have this pulse bomb online, this payload could get sunk in now.
Hanzo. Oh, the auspices of the Hanzo not looking good as Dreamer wants even more, goes deep. Oh, surviving the pulse.
3 meters.
Great hardiness there from Dada. EMP, it's simply for show. A victory firework for Dreamers. Signals the dream is not dead. In fact, it is alive. It is kicking. It is brutally maiming Panthers. And while it might not be ethical, it is bloody exciting to watch as the land victory goes to Dreamers.
What an exciting way to be able to finish off this series. Yet again, we get a chance to see a full completion. That's how we ended the series with Soul of Infernal versus Poker Face, and Dreamers getting a chance to finish off the series with a full completion on Esperanza in front of a crowd. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
It is amazing for these players to get this expertise and this experience in front of a crowd. We saw how many signs there were for Dreamers. There's belief. There is impassioned belief in this roster, knowing not only that they can do it for contenders, but also they can go all the way. They could make it to the playoffs, to the grand finals. They need to make sure that they don't drop maps like Midtown, yes, but now 2-0. A bow is taken, and the dream becomes ever more real, looking for that great seeding to try and be one of 3 APAC teams that goes for the biggest trophy of them all, and every fan in this venue believes in that dream.
Dreamers can make that playoff run, and they become one of 3 teams that has an undefeated record for this very first week of the Summer Qualifiers. It's going to be Dreamers, Soul, Infernal, and we also have Dallas Fuel in the mix after pretty disappointing first half from them, but Dreamers living up to the hype. Hangzhou Spark called them one of the best teams from contenders, a force to be reckoned with, one that they are potentially scared of entering into the rest of the Summer Qualifiers, and I think Dreamers showing us exactly why as they do take this series too.
I mean, I'd be bloody scared as well. Top Dragon and Sad also looking pretty good, but there's so much more to do. Dreamers lost both their DPS, and if they're winning with a newly constructed roster, what can they do when everyone has made it to the top of that coordination? Speaking of one of those DPS that is just about right in the coordination trade, our player of the match is the one and only Top Dragon at the head of this series, Necro. I'll say that this guy is one of my favorite players to cast. For a while, I consider him one of the classic projectile DPS players. Loves a little bit of Echo, loves a little bit of Genji, bit of Pharah. He's got the Tracer in his back pocket, but it's the Echo today that really was a hallmark of supremacy for Top Dragon and for Dreamers.
That stood out so much. The 1v1s versus Becky, how Top Dragon was able to lock down the backline. That was just a masterclass of how to be able to play the Echo. And there's a reason why Dreamers ended up picking up Top Dragon. You could call them a contenders team all we want because they are coming up that way from the path to pro, but they're still in the Overwatch League. They are still playing against the best of the best that APAC has to offer, and Top Dragon is showing up and taking names.
The world's eyes will alight when the challenge of one of the greater teams is placed before Dreamers, because this is a runaway-esque story. I dare revoke the names. How dare you stand where they once stood? I can't think of a team more well-suited to carry that mantle of runaway. The pink, the whimsy, the skill and the heart is what makes the path to pro so special, what makes Overwatch, the gaming franchise, so special, and every single one of these players has the skill to back it up. Dreamers, excellent recruitment and excellent scouting has found them players like Top Dragon, and here are some beautiful stats for all of you math heads out there.
Can't believe that O2 Blast gave up this player. It feels like O2 Blast actually ended up kind of graduating Top Dragon to another very high level team, and the Echo just proving itself to be a huge force to be reckoned with here in the APAC region. The number of eliminations that Top Dragon was able to get, it was fantastic to be able to see the survivability as well, being able to use the duplicate to keep Top Dragon into the mix. But we do have an interview with Top Dragon standing by, so let's go ahead and hear the wonderful translation from Unknown to get his thoughts.
(2023) 오버워치 리그 서머 스테이지 퀄리파이어 오늘의 마지막 경기로 인사드립니다. 안녕하세요, 손혜윤입니다.
Hello, this is the host
처음
Sean Penman.
맞붙었던 드리머즈 대 판테라 3대1 스코어로 드리머즈가 승리를 가져가게 되었는데요. 파족 시세의 2연승으로 아주
Our last
기분
match
좋은
of the
개막
day
출근을
was
보내고 있는
Dreamers versus
드리머즈의
Panthera,
탑드래곤
a
선수와
match
이야기
where
나눠보도록
Dreamers won
하겠습니다.
3-1.
안녕하세요.
And we have top
안녕하세요.
dragon on the floor.
승리하셨습니다.
아, 네, 오늘 생각보다 힘들었는데 그래도 이겨서 다행인
So
것 같아요.
how was your win today?
POTM까지
It was a little bit harder than I expected.
기분이 어떠신가요?
How do you feel about the player of the match?
받으려고 되게 대회 때 열심히 했는데 못 받아서 되게 상심이 컸는데 그래도
So
오늘
in previous matches,
받을
I was
만큼
like,
해서 받은 것
I was
같아요.
working
오늘.
really hard
맞아요.
towards
정말
getting that
받을만
player of the
했다라는
match,
말이
and I
절로
didn't,
나올 정도로
I didn't end up
훌륭한
getting it. So I was a
그런
little bit
노력을
disappointed. But today, I nailed it.
스프링 시즌 때 같은 컨텐더스 출신이었지만 조가 달라서 맞붙지 못했습니다. 오늘 붙어보니까 어떠셨어요?
So
솔직히
in
오늘 좀
in
힘들
spring,
거라고
you
생각을
never
했는데
actually had to
1세트
go
때
against Panthera because you were in a different
페어를
group.
졌는데 그
How
다음에
do you
지자마자
feel
제가
about
그냥
them after you
그냥 잊어라.
went against
그냥
them?
조합 차이다. 코치 차이니까 그냥 다음에 가자. 이러고 이제 다음 맵 다 싹 잊고 이제 리마인딩해서 이긴 것
So when we
이거
lost,
코치님이
when we
들으셔도
lost,
괜찮은
dropped that
건가요?
map.
같아요.
We were a little bit nervous, but then like our conversations were like, "Hey, this is a comp difference." Like our coach trolled, and then we kind of grouped out. We grouped after that, and we won confidently.
일단 평일 내내 하루 이제 세 타임 이제 6시간씩 연습을 했고
So how much do you
토요일에도 두
practice?
타임씩 이제 어떻게 보면 휴가가 이제 36시간 주고 이제 나머지 싹 다 일하는 약간 그런
So
느낌인데
during the entire
그래도
break, I think I only had
다
about like
같이 하루
36
맞추려면 어쩔
hours
수 없는 과정이지 않나
of not
싶긴
playing
해요.
Overwatch, and then
그
every
노력으로 인해서
other
혹시
hour was
오늘
kind of
경기를
committed.
기준으로 하자면
Whether or not
완성도가
I
몇
was actually
퍼센트
playing the game or
정도
not,
되는 건가요?
was committed to Overwatch.
아 솔직히 제 기준에는 좀 많이 멀긴 한데 한 30%? 30% 정도밖에 안 되는 것 같아요 아직.
아직
So,
팀업의 완성도가
how far do you
30%
think have you
정도밖에 안
achieved,
된다고
like,
생각을 하시는데 이렇게나
compared to
좋은
your
경기력을
goals right now?
보여주시다니
To be honest, I think I'm only at 30% of where I
세대
want to be.
선수와
I still
탑드래곤
have
선수가
the rest of
번갈아가면서
70% to
트레이서를
go
기용하는
in
모습을
terms of
보여주었습니다.
where I want to be.
혹시 뭔가 전략이었을까요?
아 이제 코치님들이 생각해줘서 말을 한 건데 근데 제가 에코를 좀 더 선호한다고 하기도 했고 이제
So,
세드 선수도
you
한교도
see,
자신
you
있는데
played a lot of
트레이서도
Echo today.
잘하는
Was
선수라서
that like where did that
이제
idea
그냥
come from?
그러면은 그냥
We
세드
had a
선수
conversation with the
시키고
coaches. I did tell the coaches that I was a little bit more comfortable on the Echo, especially on this patch, and I think it was more of like a collaboration between the players and the coaches, and it was a
그렇다면 혹시
joint
개인적으로 궁금한
idea.
게 탑드래곤 선수의 트레이서와 이 세드 선수의 트레이서가 어떤 차이점이 있을까요?
So also, we've noticed that you and Sad were sharing playtime on Tracer. What's the difference between the two styles?
약간 차이점이 있는 그런 모습이라고 말씀을
So I'm a little
해주셨는데
bit more
방금
of
말씀해주신
backline
것처럼
harass,
에코가
where
자신있다고
Sad is a little bit of,
말씀해주셨어요.
regardless
말씀해주신
of who
것처럼
he's
3세트
shooting at, he
지붕
kind of
80m
catches
가량
those kills. He finishes off those kills, where I'm more at harassing the backline.
상대는 솜트를 기용을 했었고 우리 드리머즈는 에코를 기용을 했어서 완전히 카운터를 치는 모습을 보여주었습니다. 혹시 상대 조합을 예상했던 건가요?
네 요즘에
So we've seen a lot of Echo play from
from
Dreamers going against the double flankers. Was this something that you've been anticipating Panthera to play double flankers, and was the Echo like an answer to it? Of course, if you see a lot of the other matches from even the Overwatch League or other competitions, you can see that Echo is answering a lot of the double flanker compositions, and I think it's something on those lines as well for us.
뭐랄까요? 견제가 되던가요?
저희가 일단 2세트 미드타운 때 완막다운 그냥 2분 만에 뚫렸는데 그때가 마지막이었잖아요. 그래서 이게 오늘 윈스 손브라 트레이서 이걸 하면 안 되는 건가 했는데 이제 4세트 때 그냥 윈스부터 다시 해보자. 우리가
So you not only did you play the Echo, you also played the Winston and double flankers as well. So like a little bit of tactical variance there. Like, is there anything like any kind of reasons or intentions behind it? I mean, of course, we always prepare for different compositions. Like in Midtown, we used that comp and it didn't really work out. But after that, we still proved that we can play that, and I think that's also a very good thing.
다시 이제 아나 힐러들이랑 같이 전선 밀고 나오는 약간
상대 윈스턴 때려주고
그런 느낌으로 플레이했습니다.
이유가 있었을까요?
그게 펄스가 빨리
So
차요.
like when you play the Tracer,
펄스를 빨리
you
돌려서 또
we
윈스턴한테 붙이고
noticed that you were hitting
빨리
hitting a lot of the
이제 상대
tanks.
힐러 쪽에서도
Is there any reason?
상대
And
펄스에
like
빠르니까
you kind of
조심해야
focus
된다.
your fire on
이런 게
the tanks?
바뀌어서
Well,
안
number one,
나오는
usually
아,
when
뭐
I coordinate with my
EMP를
Ana,
빨리빨리
it's
채우는 구조랑
usually
비슷한
that
원리네요.
when the Ana throws the nade,
그렇습니다.
Bionade,
말씀해주신
the
것처럼
tank is
4세트로
usually
정말
the
좋은
one
모습
that's
많이
getting hit by
보여주셨는데
it.
그
And also,
이스페란자에서
you know, hitting the
고속도로로
tanks
뚫었잖아요.
charges up my pulse bomb really
그때
quickly,
딱
so
승리를
why not?
예감을 하셨나요? 아니면 그 전에 딱 예감하셨을까요?
Was there a specific
솔직히
point of the
이스페란자
game that you
시작할 때까지는
thought that you had it in the
긴가민가
bag?
딱 첫 안타 상대가 라마트라 조합이었는데 이제 거기서 킬을 저희가 먼저 잘 냈잖아요. 이제 그 한타 이기고 상대가 윈스턴 바꿔오는 거 보고 아 이거는 오늘은 이길 수 있겠다. 쉽게 이길 수 있겠다 이 생각했어요.
I think when we played their comp and they were starting up with Ramattra, and after we won that first fight and they just
특히
swapped to the
미신이가
Winston comp,
타면은
I just kind of had that feeling that we're gonna win today because they are having to be forced to make changes because of our play, and I think that's the point where we thought we would have.
예, 잘하면은 막 좋았다 해주면은 현근이가 아 이거야 이런 느낌이야 이러면은 이제 분위기 올라가고.
아 그런 좋은 분위기가
So we were,
조금 더 경기력이
just to
도움이 되지
kind of
않았나라는
elaborate
생각이
on the team
드는데
vibes right now, we were
이현승입니다.
kind of
다음 매치로는
cuddling each
포커페이스를
other,
상대로
kind of
만나게 되는데
calling out what we did
어떠세요? 어떻게
great, and then
준비하실
that kind of like
예정인가요?
makes a
일단 준비는
I
똑같이
guess
하던 대로 하고
good circle of good vibes.
못하는 팀이 아니고 멤버도 엄청 쟁쟁한 사람들만 모였기 때문에 방심하지 않고 꾸준히 준비해서 이제 저희 할
So
거
on to their next matchup, you're on a two-match win streak.
깨는 아니어도
How are you
이길
going to
것
prepare your
같습니다.
next match?
맞습니다.
I mean, this group is full of teams that are really strong and have good players, so we're never going to be complacent, and we'll definitely
현장에
prepare
많은
well.
팬분들이 와주시고 어제도 이긴 이후에 많은 응원의 메시지도 받았을 것 같아요. 팬분들께 한마디 해주시죠.
So there's actually a lot of fans in the venue. Do you have any
항상
messages for them?
응원해주셔서 감사하고 응원해주시는 만큼 이제 미의 리그 오버워치 리그 갈 수 있게 더 열심히
So, thank you for all your support, and we'll definitely make sure that your support is paid back through, you know, winning and also making it to the latter stages of the Overwatch League.
부모님이 항상 바쁜데도 이제 열심히 계속 같이 응원해주시고 도닥여주고 하니까 이제 좀 더 프로게이머 하는데 되게 발판이 되지 않나.
And so, like, fans coming to LAN here and actually getting to meet them here is really special for me because it makes me recognize and feel that I'm actually a professional
전에 막
gamer.
뭐라 하는 거를
어,
이제 점심에 따뜻한 밥 먹고 왔습니다.
같이 밥 먹고 그게 조금 버프가 되었었던 것 같네요.
네, 그게 좀 많이 도움이 됐죠.
그럼 마지막으로 부모님께 한마디 하고 인터뷰
So,
해볼까요?
also, do you have any messages to your
이번에
parents?
리그 못 갔는데 이제 또 갈 때까지 열심히 할 테니까
Hey, I didn't make it to the league this year, but
열심히 하겠다. 기죽지 말고.
I'll definitely try hard and show a good
알겠습니다.
performance, and
네,
maybe we
저도
can
끝까지
get that.
응원하도록 하겠습니다. 지금까지
get that
드리머즈의
league
탑드래곤
contract
선수와
in the
인터뷰
bag.
나눠봤습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
And that's the end of the interview. Back
네,
to you,
이렇게
Harry.
동부 개막주의 모든 경기를
Thank you so much,
보내드렸습니다.
Unknown. You
리빌딩
never
이후 더욱
cease to amaze me.
다채로워진
Excellent
팀들과의 저도
translation.
남은
And
기간
you know
시즌이
what?
무척 기대가
He might not
되는데요.
have got a
끝까지
contract,
함께
but
즐겨주시기
honestly,
바라면서 저는 이만
he
여기서
could still win
인사드리도록
Overwatch.
하겠습니다.
Like, Top Dragon
지금까지
doesn't need a
손흥민이었습니다.
contract,
여러분
Necra.
고맙습니다.
There is still a league that could potentially be won. The studio was filled with those who believed. The fandom for this team could not be more vigorous. But there is more than just streamers over here. And APAC, here's a good look at your standings throughout all of today. It's been a long day for you, Necra.
It has been a long day, but it's been a great day. Look at that. I mean, we still ended up getting like pretty dominant performances here on the left side of your screen, but these really are the best teams right now as they are making a case for themselves, having undefeated records, and hopefully continuing to battle it out. But I honestly can't wait to see like Dallas Fuel go up against Soul Infertile. That match is going to be coming up very shortly, just in a few weeks' time. And Dreamers as well still have a tough road ahead of them because it is still just going to get harder and harder for them as the season progresses. Take a look at the overall standings though, so you also see the middle of the pack and some of the teams that have to pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, Hungry Spark going 1-1. Maybe a touch surprising, but Dallas Fuel a bounce back in the second half of the season. It's definitely making our reigning champions feel a lot more of a fearsome threat. But still, the Dreamers, This is a team that has such a storyline behind them that I am constantly excited to see where they're going to go. It's another contenders team that stands in their way. Next matchup is, of course, week 2. So you've got yourself a little bit of a breather after tonight's North American broadcast to make sure that you can fill up everything you need to drink during the next bunch of APAC matches. Charge versus Inferno is really going to be a bellwether for how Charge are going to bounce back from so-so first week.
Yeah, and then you've got Dallas Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons, though. That's going to be another Owl team versus Owl team, and yeah, I can't wait. I mean, Poker Face also been able to put on some really bright moments this weekend, and so being able to see Dreamers go up against them, a lot of ex-Overwatch League players on that team as well, familiar faces. It's going to be a great second week, and also a great way to be able to see which teams are starting to really separate themselves.
Yeah, our summer stage is only just beginning. For those of you who stuck around and watched the opens, you know that a bunch of contenders teams, or 2 particular contenders teams, Simpressa Gaming and Rhodes, are waiting for us in the knockouts. But there is so much more to go here in the qualifiers, not only in APAC, but in North America as well. There will be plenty for you to watch for those of you who do not sleep and simply live Overwatch. But today, I've been absolutely honored to watch so many fantastic players go at it. It's good to see Soul Infernal back in form. Skew doing a huge amount of damage on the supports, just evoking the Doa of old and really leaning in to the supportal combat.
It's been awesome as well. I mean, this is my first weekend of getting a chance to really dive into what these Eastern teams have to offer, and it has not disappointed. I've been so excited about this moment for a long time, and can't wait to see more of what's going to happen in these summer stage qualifiers.
Yeah, Guangzhou Charge is definitely a team that I'm going to be putting under the microscope soon when we prepare for next week's games. How's Choice A1 doing? We've always known that Choice A1 is like this prodigious talent that sometimes didn't have the support structure around them to really make it work, but feels like this year might be a little bit different. Piggy, big glow up this year as well. What a pickup for Guangzhou Charge he was, and it feels like Farway has finally gone into their own as well. But for those of you who've made it here this late, it's evidently because you care so much about not only East but contenders as well. We hope that you enjoyed this LAN. It was our pleasure to bring you the heartfelt moments, the big hugs, the big frags, and the big feelings. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.